G'day. This lesson today is looking at fractions. So you would have done quite a bit of work on fractions over a number of years. So some of this may come as revision. Other things might fill in a few gaps you've got. So let's take a look. So really simply, what is a fraction? We've got a shape here that's made up of 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 of them are shaded. So we represent that something of a whole that's made up of smaller parts as a fraction. There's a numerator and a denominator. The numerator is the number of parts we're interested in this case the ones that are shaded, 3, and the denominator is the ones, how many there are in total. So numerator is parts, denominator is the total. Another word you might hear me talk about is the simplest form is a fraction with the smallest numbers for the numerator and the denominator. So fractions are, we take a whole and we divide it into smaller parts. So here you can quite clearly see that a half or 1/2 is 2 equal sized parts that make up a whole. The interesting part about fractions is that we can look at if I have 2/5, I could write that fraction as 2/5. The interesting thing with a half, if I make a dotted line, is wherever you see a size that a fraction where there's a line there as well, is that we can represent a half in a different way. So you can see a quarter. So 2 quarters is the same size as a half. Likewise, 3/6 is the same as a half, and 4/8, and so on and so on. And we can make other values too, like a third. We can make that up with 4/12. Or there is 2/6 as well is equal to a third. So a lot of these fractions are interchangeable. The important part to note is that the bottom number is how many parts make up a whole. So there is 1, 2. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why we have 7 there, and they're all our different fractions. So what I've got here is an exercise I want you to have a go at. If you could have a piece of paper beside you. What I want you to do is take a diagram, and here we've got 1, 2, so 2 parts in total. So we look for the one with the denominator of a 2, and 1 is shaded, so that one's correct. And we match them up together with a line. What I want you to do is, once I finish talking, pause the video and have a go at matching the fractions to the shapes or the diagrams that represent them. You may have to copy it out. So pause the video now and complete that. So hopefully you've had a go at completing those. So we can see that there's 8 different sections and 3 of them are shaded in, so that's 3/8. The next one there is 4 with 3 shaded in, so that's 3/4. The next one we've got 5/6 or 5 shaded in with 6 parts, and then the last one's easy, we can link it together. So hopefully you got all of those correct. And then we can take a look at the next bit. So the next bit's looking at using your calculators. Using your calculators is a big advantage using fractions. It saves a lot of time as well. Now, depending on which calculator you have, there's a few steps and tricks that you need to learn. In your stationery list, this calculator was put in it, and it's the common one for the junior school. So hopefully everyone's got one of those, and then that just makes our lives a little bit easier. The one on the right is the one that we use in level 2 maths. So you might have a brother or family member who's using those, so you could use that or borrow that. The other reason why I've included it is I have an emulator, which is a computer program that mimics or simulates using a calculator. So you can use that on your computer screen in its place. So I'm actually going to show you how to do the fraction work with both calculators. So if you have the one on the left, the blue calculator, then use that. If not, you'll be able to complete the work using the emulator, which is on the lesson sheet, and you can simply click and open it. So when we're using the blue calculator, the key button that we're interested in is the double box button. So with the double box button, you can input fractions into your calculator, and because it's the natural display, is that it's the best thing about this calculator is that you can just write as the equation looks. So the key thing is the double box button is located here, and there's also a shift button, which I'll talk about as well. Basically, any of the instructions I've got that are white are the buttons. The shift button is the function above the button. You'll notice that there's quite a lot of yellow on the calculator, and it just means that you can use that function rather than the button as long as you press shift first. Using the ABC, the graphics calculator doesn't have a double box button. It uses an old-fashioned, and actually if you have a cheaper version of the school calculator, it may have an ABC button, so check that of any of the calculators you got before using the emulator. It uses an ABC button, and in some ways it is actually a little bit quicker and easier to use than the double box button, but it doesn't look natural, so you have to be familiar with what you're looking at. It's located here, and the other thing is shift, which again we're going to have to use some of those functions at the top as well. So the first thing we need to do, you can follow the buttons here, is find the double box button. Then we want to enter 3, then down, then 4, then press equals, and we should end up with 3/4. You can press clear with the AC button. We're going to go at 7/5, again the double box, 7, down, 5, equals, we end up with 7/5, and we clear with 3. So because the next one's a mixed number, it's made up with a whole number and a fraction, there's a common mistake people make, and that's to go straight away and put in 5, then put in a double box, or we put 5, then 2 and down. Now that looks, 2 then down to put the 3 in. It looks fine, but when you press equals, it makes a bit of a mess. So that's the wrong answer. So you need to make sure what you do is when you're doing a mixed number is press shift, then press the double box, which gives you a triple box. So there's a box to put the 5 in, and then a box to put the 2 in by moving from the 5 across, press 2, then down to press 3. and then that fixes all the problem. We end up with an improper fraction or a top-heavy fraction. We'll explain later how to change that. Okay, so moving on, if we take a look at doing the same fractions using the emulator, which is the same as the physical calculator. So if you need to go and get the file, open it up, it should pop up straight away, and you should be able to follow what we do on the screen. So the first thing you need to do is, it's a little bit different because it's got a number of functions, is that you need to press menu. Okay, now you can go through that. It's not a touch screen, so you can't touch that bit, but you could also press, you can move to it, or you can press 1. All right, then the next bit we need to do is just put in the fraction. So to do that, it's really simple. 3 ABC, which is located there, and 4. Notice how it doesn't show it as, it doesn't look like a fraction on the note that we've got there. The key thing is that there's no equals button, it's just execute. So for the next one, it's just 7 ABC 5, and you can see it's really quick to be able to navigate and do. In fact, the mixed number is even easier. You just write it as it looks. So the A is 5, then you press the ABC button, then the 2, then the 3, then execute. And that's it. And we still get our own proper fraction answer. So that's how to enter fractions into your calculator. What you need to do now is stop. There's a worksheet for you to complete. There's also another video to complete this lesson, which you need to look at.